Hello, I'm so glad you're here with us today. I would like to welcome you to Positive Conversations with David and Donna. I'm Donna.
And I'm David, taking a sip of water, so I
Yes.
hesitated a little bit.
And he's also trying not to cough his head off, so trying to stay positive when you're ill is something I'm sure that many of us go through. So much of the time we have to do things even when we're sick, but gotta stay positive anyway, right?
Stay positive. I was definitely sick last night, actually, so interesting that you bring that up. And it was very difficult to stay positive when I wanted to throw up every 5 seconds. Sorry, great way to start a positive conversation talking about such a thing.
Well, how did you stay positive?
My girlfriend cuddled me,
Aww,
and then I felt better.
made you feel so much better.
Yes.
Well, good.
And my sister, so what happened is, for context, we were at a comic book convention, and I was going to drive home, but the second we got in the car, everything just hit me. I don't know why, and I just could not do it, and my sister offered the drive. So, because of her, and because of my girlfriend and the people around me, I was able to, and when I got home finally, it was about an hour and a half drive of just feeling miserable. When I got home finally, my baby boy Socks was there, my dog. Because of those, I was able to stay positive and be okay, and make it here today to record this podcast.
Yeah, I've been noticing how much you've been coughing. I didn't know you were so sick last night. Well,
Right.
I'm glad you found a way to get through it, and that miraculously you seem much better today.
I know. I feel much better today. It's incredible that nothing is better than being super sick and then like suddenly not being
Yes.
anymore, and suddenly like being able to like function again. And it feels so nice.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Well, we did say at the end of our last Stay Positive podcast that we would focus on emotions today. This is a very important topic to me because I've been through quite a range of dealing with emotion, starting with when I was younger, not dealing with them at all, and not understanding that when you stuff things in, they stay. And you think that you've dealt with them because you don't feel them anymore, but what happens is that you don't feel anything. So what happened to me was that I had this perception of myself that I was this very open person that anybody could talk to, and that I was just really free and easy. But people around me had a very different concept and told me that, like you have this wall, like it's hard to get through to you. And I completely did not see that at all. And it's been so interesting to me as a teacher, because I try to be the kind of teacher that people can come speak to and talk to, that many of the people who do come to me say things like that to me. Like, I don't know why, but I just put up these walls. I just build these walls and people try to get through to me, and I just don't know why I do this. I'm like, well, I do. Let me talk to you about it. And so for me, it was dealing with pain meant just not dealing with anything when I was younger. And after a while, and it decided it had to come out, because it does eventually. It works its way up and out some kind of way. I went through really terrible, horrible, tough times just because I was continuing to ignore the pain that I felt. And when I
prolonged it.
I did prolong it. And so when I finally was able to deal with it and get through it, I became much more open, so that I feel like now I present myself as a very, very open person. And some people are shocked when they hear me say that I used to be so closed off. But I finally have become what I always pictured myself to be. So that's just my blur, but there's much more to say. What did you want to say about it in general, about expressing emotions?
Expressing emotions. The first thing that comes to excuse me for my coughing, it's going to happen some more. The first thing that comes to my head when we talk about expressing emotions, and I'm going to be honest with you, now I remember, but I forgot that we said that's what we were going to talk about for the next podcast. So all the thoughts that I might have had last week have kind of faded. So this is fresh off my mind. First thing that comes to my head is finding the balance of expressing emotions and not keeping anything in, and being able to speak your mind and how you feel, but also not letting your emotions necessarily control you.
Absolutely.
Like you always say, it's how we react to our situation. Emotions are not a bad thing, and I think a lot of people are afraid of them, or that people get sort of not even afraid of them, but like in general, there's like this idea that being emotional is bad. I don't think that's true. I think maybe being too emotional could maybe sometimes in certain situations be a bad thing, But I hate when people are like, oh, you're too emotional, I don't like him, or that person's emotional. Like, what's so wrong with that? You know, what's so wrong with somebody who is very open about how maybe they don't like somebody, and or maybe they don't want that kind of person around their life, or, you know, I see a lot of issues in like friend groups, like, well, I don't hang out with that person, he's too emotional. Which, what I've come to find out, means he doesn't like it when I make fun of him, or he gets really attached to people and he gets hurt whenever I do something bad to him, or hurt him or her. I think that nothing is necessarily wrong with that. I think there's a stigma around it, and I don't think there really should be.
Well, I'm going to jump in because one of the things I have actually thought about this idea of speaking about emotions all week since we finished the last podcast, because it is such a huge part of my life. But I strongly disagree with this whole stereotype that men can't express their emotions. And I think it's just toxic, and so much bad comes from men feeling like they have to be hard, and if they cry, there's something wrong with them. And it just hurts my heart because, I mean, we're all human beings, and obviously there are differences, male, female, or however you identify. But the point is, everybody on the earth is a human, and we all have emotions. And to tell half of the population, oh yeah, you can feel everything, you just can't tell anybody you feel anything, to the point that when there is crying of any sort, I mean, if you cry at your mother's funeral and you're a male, people are like, well, you know, it's okay because it was his mom that died. You know what I'm saying? They're like certain times that it's okay. But I mean, in general, you're just supposed to close off and like just stuff it all in to show how strong you are. And that just causes just the complete backlash of everything in you, to all this violence that comes out. And oh, it just makes me so upset. I hate when that is how we feel as a general population. And I hope it's changing. I don't know what will ever make it change.
I'd say it is, sure.
I hope so.
I think there's a lot less of that. I think that previous generations definitely felt that more so than maybe what is felt now. This idea that you're right, that like men are man. I'm a man.
That you're weak if you show any form of emotion.
Yeah, and that you can't feel certain ways, that you just have to deal with things. You know, stuff hurts, stuff is sad, and this, and I've been in that situation personally myself, where it's like it becomes your fault if you're sad about something and not the person who made you sad, and it's because you're a guy and you should just be able to deal with it, and or being told that you're immature if you feel emotions. I've been there. I have been cheated on and then told that I'm just being immature because I'm sad about it, where if I was mature I would understand my emotions and understand that it's not a big deal. That is twisted, insane,
yes.
Stupid,
absolutely,
and wrong, and hurtful and bad. Like, if you're that person who said that to me is a bad person, and it's not true. And I think a lot of people, and it messed with me because it took me a long time to embrace those emotions because of being told things like that by twisted people people with twisted views on how things are, or people who disconnect emotion from the physical and the real life thing. Like, you know, I think every action has an emotion associated with it. This idea that things are like, oh, it's just a thing. It's like, no, it's not a thing. And that, I'm not just referring to like relationship and stuff. I'm referring to like anything you do. I believe there is some sort of emotion behind it that action is associated with, no matter what it is, and just ignore that sort of thing, and to tell other people to ignore. To ignore it is one thing, but to tell other people to ignore it is just toxic.
Yes, it is. And I think that one of the things that a lot of people do is ignore their own emotion. So I want to talk about that a little bit more, and then I want to come back to something we said last week too, which is, should you express every emotion? So,
that's right. I asked you. Yeah. I think, what did I say? Is there any emotion that is bad?
Right, so we'll come to that. But for me, what I try to do, and I mentioned this also at the end of the last podcast, is when I feel something now, I have learned not to be afraid of whatever the feeling is. So I can sit with it, and whether I write it, say it aloud to nobody, or say it aloud to somebody who is listening to me, either way, any of those ways, I want to get it out. And so, so just for example, if there is something that somebody does that hurts my feelings, whether it's that they ignore me, or that they say something that I find hurtful or rude, or if they devalue me in some way, or I'm just trying to think of things that have happened to me in the recent past, that are, I should say, things that I perceive. I will make sure that I, first of all, acknowledge to myself that I feel this way, and then get it out of myself. I will feel it, and I will find a way to get it out. And I encourage everyone I talk to do that, because, I mean, when huge things happen, obviously, something, a really close person to you, moving away from you for whatever reason, or dying, like a huge loss. For me, loss has been a huge theme in my life. I have learned to recognize the feeling I have, and to look, that's the thing, to look at it straight on. That's what people are afraid of. And I think men in particular are afraid of doing that because it might cause tears. But tears are just your body's way of helping you release the things that are causing the toxic buildup. And I want that stigma to go away. Every male I've ever talked to, or even when I talk to my whole classroom as a whole, I'm like, we got to get rid of that. That's just got to stop, because men are human beings, and that should not be a problem. So I feel like just whatever the emotion is, if it makes you uncomfortable, if it hurts you in any way, you should just look straight at it and say to yourself, write it down, or say to somebody else, or whatever other way you can think to express it. Get a canvas and paint how you feel, but get it out. Find a way to get it out. So that to me is vital.
And don't be afraid of them, and say what it is. And I think when it comes to people around you and the events that happen to you, it is important to state very clearly how these things make you feel. And it's not wrong to, like, if somebody is making you uncomfortable or hurting you or upsetting you, then nothing is wrong. It doesn't matter who that person is, in my opinion. Nothing is wrong with cutting those people out. I saw a meme once that was really funny, and it was like, toxic is toxic. I don't care if you're my newborn 3-year-old. If you make me upset, I'm getting rid of you. So that's just a joke.
A bit extreme,
but that's
but demonstrates the point.
It demonstrates the point of, like, toxic is toxic. It doesn't matter who it is in your life. If it's been your best friend for 15 years, if that person is being toxic, that needs to be dealt with. Now, I am saying that with the assumption that people listening to this are not twisted psychopaths. Well, maybe they are, but there's a chance that person might be the twisted one who thinks that I saw a meme one time that was really funny that was like, I've had enough of this toxic relationship. I don't know how much more I can handle it. And it's like, what's wrong? My boyfriend won't let me hang out at my ex's apartment. And it's like, no. Like, that's the thing I see a lot. It's like, but in that person's mind, maybe the other person is being toxic. And what I always say to that, to try to find a neutral solution and a less judgmental one, is, well, if that's how you feel about a relationship, then you should find somebody who has the same opinions as you in a relationship.
Okay.
If you think that you should be allowed to hang out with your ex, fine. But date somebody who also feels that they should be allowed to hang out with their ex, and then you have to accept it and do it, and get rid of the top. Because I guess to that person, their boyfriend is being quote unquote toxic, and to that boyfriend, their girlfriend is being toxic. And it's okay to get rid of those kind of people in your life, and it's very important to do so as soon as possible.
I agree with that. So now we will jump to the other one. Are all emotions good? Should they all be expressed? Is there any emotion that is bad? You talk to me about your thoughts since you brought that up.
It's really hard to put that in thought. We've been watching a lot of Star Wars and talking about a lot of Star Wars, and there are emotions that are associated with the dark side and emotions that are associated with the light side. And I was thinking about that, actually. It's maybe one of the reasons I asked this question to you, is because anger is associated with the dark side. But then I think about people like Kylo Ren, who had anger. They had to do something with it. Maybe they expressed it in the wrong way. So I don't think that there are any bad emotions. I think there are bad ways of expressing emotions.
And I think a very good litmus test for that is, are you hurting other people? Because certainly everyone gets angry. Everyone does. It's a human emotion. So you have to express it.
That's a good point.
So many of my male students come to school with their knuckles all twisted and swollen because they punched the wall. And I'm like, dude,
Oh, yeah.
come on now.
I've been there.
I know.
Punching walls.
I mean, again, that's because males are taught that they have to be hard and strong. And so instead of expressing that they're hurt or angry, they're going to go and, be all tough and go punch the
what
wall.
I've felt is that, like, I just get, when I've punched walls or roofs of my car, it's more that I just have this anger and I have no idea how to express it or get it out. And maybe that's because I was never necessarily taught how to do such a thing. So I don't know what else to do. And I'm just like, I don't do it because, like, I got to be strong. I'm going to punch the wall. I do it because I just don't know what else to do. And I just need to hit something. And that's what you get in your head. And you just got to be able to take a step back and relax. You need to be taught to relax and how to relax and express your emotions healthily and just talk them and find somebody who will listen. And if everybody would just listen, if everyone just listened to some emotions, then a lot less people would punch their walls.
Well, or even learn to listen to yourself. So I'm watching our time. One of the things that I wanted to say, because I looked up some information before we started, is the idea of self-talk, which I've talked a whole lot already about kind of monitoring your thoughts. But monitoring what you say to yourself is something that I've also really had to work on in my life. We don't realize how much we say that is so vicious to ourselves. I mean, horrible. Like something I recently, David always talks about memes. Well, for me, something I saw on Facebook was a person saying, imagine your 10-year-old self sitting in front of you and just tell that 10-year-old self, you are a piece of dirt, you're just worthless, nobody cares about you, you're stupid, and just put them down in the most awful way that you can. Just imagine yourself doing that. And then the little piece of writing went on to say, I mean, of course you would never do that to your 10-year-old self, but you're perfectly welcome or free or feel comfortable doing it to yourself now. And we all do that. Mm-hmm. I mean, how many times have I walked into a situation or said something like, God, I'm so stupid, I can't believe I did that. I used to do that all the time.
Wow.
And I mean, I became aware of it. And when I did, it took me a little while, even beyond becoming aware of it, to go even deeper, which was pretty recent, like in the last several years, to realize I was still doing it. But becoming aware of toxic thoughts about yourself, to me, is just as important as just any negative thought, because it is, of course, a negative thought, but it's something that we're all so accustomed to that we just do it all the time and we don't realize we're doing it. What were you going to say?
That's really, really interesting, because I'm the kind of person who will sometimes lay in bed at night and not be able to sleep because I'm thinking about something I did when I was 10 years old that was embarrassing, and I say to myself, I am the kind of, the end of that meme was, you wouldn't do that to your 10-year-old self.
But
well,
you did.
I have many times recently, and I've actually been told by friends of mine who like are close to me to say, like, you were a kid, forgive yourself, which is really interesting because, like, I would tell my 10-year-old self, and when you put it in that perspective of imagine my 10-year-old self was sitting in front of me, I wouldn't, if they're actually in front of me, I wouldn't say, wow, you freaking suck, dude. I can't believe you. Like, what the frick was wrong with you when you made that embarrassing joke or blah, blah, blah. I'm going to beat the frick out of you.
But
like, I wouldn't do that.
To think back on how stupid you felt,
right,
but not talking to your actual 10-year-old self.
But if I look at myself, I'm going to be like, wow, hey, man, you're cool. You're just a kid. Which is like, wow, that puts in perspective. Imagine if I was looking at myself right now, I wouldn't. If I'm actually looking at myself, I'm not going to, like, in the same way that I'm not a jerk like that to other people, why would I do that to myself?
Exactly.
Don't do that, man.
Well, I think a lot of what I would like to get across in this podcast is just awareness, because awareness of your emotions and expressing them, awareness of your thoughts when they're negative and changing the channel, awareness of your negative self-talk, and learning to think about what you want other people to tell you or what you want to say to other people. Like, as a teacher, one of the things I always try to do is say positive things to people and compliment them and tell them how wonderful they are. And I like when people do that for me as well. So I don't want to be the kind of person to myself that I don't even want to be to other people. Like, I don't want to be the negative person in the room, so I don't want to be the negative person to myself either. So
really, I did not expect this conversation to end up like this when we started this podcast. This very insightful thing of the self-awareness and just being aware of your emotions, changing the channel, like you said, of being aware of your thoughts.
Yes.
That are making you feel that way, or being aware of what's around you that's making you feel that way, and just getting away from those things that make you feel badly in the moment. But if there's something inside of you that is making you feel bad, then that's when you have to just deal with it and like bring it to the forefront in your head, visualize walking up to it and having a conversation with it and settling it and coming to an understanding with the emotion and figuring out exactly what it is that makes you feel that way, exactly why you shouldn't feel so badly, or explaining why you do feel so badly and coming to terms with it, or realizing what that means. Mm-hmm. And then if there's something to now solve in the real world,
yes,
that is associated with that, if you figure out, oh, I'm this way because my dad, blah, blah, blah.
Oh, that, see, we always end on the next time.
And yeah.
So learning like what the deeper need or the deeper fear is, I think that's an important thing to discuss. Mm-hmm. So we'll put that in our notes for next time.
We will. And then,
like learning how to stay positive by dealing with the deeper issues.
The deeper issues.
A lot of times we ignore that.
And finding the real world issues that are in front of you that are making you feel a certain way, because emotions come from somewhere.
Yes, they do. And I believe that that's our cue to say, wow, this has been amazing and I think insightful for both of us in a way that we both didn't even expect.
That is true.
So I guess we should wrap it up. We don't want these to go too long, even though they certainly could go longer. But I'll say thank you so much for listening to our positive conversation. This has been Donna.
And David.
Stay positive.